What is up, everybody? So before we start the video, I wanted to preface this by saying that you should watch the entirety of the video. I know it's really long, but I add in a lot of great things and conversation starters throughout the video. I kind of start off the video very defensive of maybe like certain opinions that aren't Taylor's, maybe going against her a little bit, but I think I do go back and defend her pretty heavily when it comes to her cats. I wanted to preface that because I don't want people to start watching the video and be like, oh, he's just defending or he's just going against her the whole time, when I'm really not. I'm trying to stay neutral. Some of the stuff she brought up I had certain opinions on, so please bear with me. Another thing is I only watched half the video. For time's sake, I was at 45 minutes of recording. I realized I was going to have to cut back a lot of stuff, so I didn't watch the whole video. So if I missed something important, leave it in the comments down below and let me know about it. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoy the video. Hello everybody, my name is Dusty, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something different. We're going to be watching the new Taylor Nicole Dean video and kind of doing a react as we go. She did say that the video would be out at 1 p.m. Central Time. It's now 1:54 Central Time, so I'm kind of just waiting for her to have the video, waiting for the video to come out. I guess we'll just have to wait to see if there is actually a video. I am dressed appropriately. I even have my Crocs on.
What are those?
They are my Crocs.
But we're just kind of waiting for her to release the video so we can actually watch it. So when she does release the video, we'll watch it.
Meanwhile. Eventually.
Okay guys, so she actually posted the video. She kind of posted on Twitter that she had fallen asleep and that's why it's late, you know, whatever. We're gonna go ahead and watch the video. What I'm gonna do is we're just gonna watch the whole video together, and I'm gonna post everything all at once on YouTube without really editing out a lot of it. If it's continuous rambling, I'm going to edit it out. If I have nothing to say, I'll edit it out. But generally I want it to be one continuous thing, so you can just see what I say and what she says, and we can just go from there.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel.
Hello.
Today's video is the funnest video I've ever made. I'm just on a roll here with really fun videos. I wanted to preface this video by saying I really overthink situations like this. This situation terrifies me. I don't like being unliked, but it's something I gotta get used to if I'm in the public. You know, I'm gonna mess up.
Okay, right off the bat, I think this is important to mention. I had mentioned this in a tweet, that if you're in the public life, you have to accept the fact that people are going to hate you, people are going to criticize you. She and me and a whole bunch of other people choose to put ourselves out there, and the videos we create are going to be judged. The content, how they look, how we sound, everything is going to be judged. So you have to take that hate. You have to accept that it's going to happen. You don't have to accept it as fact, but you have to accept it's going to happen. And I kind of tweeted that to somebody, and her talking about it right now just blows me away, because that's exactly the point I've been trying to make in a lot of my videos.
People are gonna hate it. So I'm dealing with a situation right now that really sucks. And it's been like a week now of it going on, and controversy just scares the crap out of me. So I've just been sulking and dealing with my own problems offline and waiting until I felt sane enough to make this video. I'm there now. Hello.
Hi.
I'm going to try to focus on the people that don't hate my guts and want me dead. I'm going to focus on the people who are just concerned, because there are plenty of people who are just concerned about the weird accusations out there right now. So I'm just going to focus on you guys.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Said hello like 4 times. I'm
Yes,
very
you have.
nervous. I'm gonna try to stay on every topic as best as I can, because there is a lot to cover. I'm sorry if I don't do it flawlessly. I know people are going to be speculating every little thing I do in this video. Are my pupils big enough? Is my arm moving the right way? Like, my posture, does it look like...
And you know, I think that is a problem in the world in general. People are always going to critique people based on their actions. I know a lot of people say that in my last video I rambled, or that I really didn't come to a point, or they didn't like this, or they didn't like that. And I think those are all valid points, and they help us readjust what we're doing. But at the same time, we're trying our absolute best. And I think I agree with Taylor in this aspect a lot, because people are going to judge you no matter what. Like, looking at her video right now, red on red on red. She has the red tank, the red shirt, the red rug, or the red blanket. I know a lot of the people that I have worked with in the past would critique her on that. I personally don't care. It's a YouTube video. It's not a studio production. She doesn't have to be perfect. This whole video is supposed to be about content. You're supposed to be watching it for content and for quality value, you know, for like value of how she put it together, her editing style, things like that. You shouldn't be critiquing her on how she looks because a lot of the time you can't help it. I know for me personally, I can't help how I look half the time. So, you really shouldn't be judging her solely based on that.
Who's guilty? People are going to speculate the crap out of this video, and it's just annoying. Okay, whew. I'm sorry if I ramble. I'm sorry if I don't do this flawlessly. I'm trying my best, okay? The crappy side of the platform that I'm on is that I am going to be picked apart for everything I do. But there's also a really good side. There's, you know, 1.5 million of you guys that are just like, you know, aren't doing that crap and just wanting to know what's going on. Not even a tenth of you know any of the controversy. It's not that big, but it's big enough where I need to address it because I don't want anyone who's watching my videos to be confused or not get to hear my side of things. So yeah, okay, I'm rambling already. Let's get started. For those who don't know, there have been accusations floating around that I neglect, abuse, and just let my animals die off and replace them. I'm hoping I can clear up some of the confusion and just talk about mistakes I've made in the past, and yeah. I have just chosen a few things I'm gonna talk about, and you could just decide what you wanna believe. I just know what I'm telling, and I know what is the truth, and I'm the only person in this entire thing that's actually experienced any of this. Everyone else that's saying I've done this or I've done that, all speculation. No one has actually been here to witness anything. I'm the only person who knows what's real and what really happened in my lifetime of owning animals, and I'm here to try to clear up the air. We're gonna start with the accusations that I kill and replace my animals. That accusation.
This is one of the accusations that I kind of thought was a tad bit ridiculous. I'm not going to be defending her or anything during this video, but this was one of the accusations when it first got presented. I was like, this is insane. I know I personally have lost animals, but I wouldn't turn around and replace them to lie to people. And I think this is the exact same thing. I think it's kind of funny that people think that it's just easy to go out and buy a new animal and pawn it off as the one you lost. If it had been, somebody along the way would have caught it. And there is absolutely no proof that that even happened because you can't prove it. It's improvable. You can't find any proof to say that that actually happened. So I think that's a very interesting argument. So I'm excited to see what she has to say.
Is completely baseless. No one has any proof whatsoever that that's true. Not one single person on this planet has proof. And that's because it's not true. The accusation originated on Twitter. Someone received a message from another person that said, hey, I used to be Taylor's friend. She kills and replaces her animals. That screenshot is the only thing people are using as proof that I've replaced my animals. And the person who posted that screenshot literally took it down 20 minutes later and said they had absolutely no proof that that was my friend or that that was true and that they shouldn't have posted something with no proof whatsoever.
Happened on my birthday.
It does make me a little upset that those rumors are going around and the same people that...
If you see me look this way, it's because I have my OBS running over here, and I just keep looking to see if I'm still on the screen and that her face is still recording. So that's all that is.
Started those rumors. Know for a fact that the person that started the rumor literally said never mind, that didn't happen, or that they don't have proof that it happened. It makes me really sad that people really wanted to fit that agenda, that storyline that I am replacing my animals, so they didn't include the part where the person said never mind, this probably isn't true, or that I don't know if it's true. So as far as that accusation goes, it's entirely speculation. There's no proof anywhere on this planet that I've ever killed and replaced an animal. The thing that confuses me even more is the animals that I have claimed to replace were my crocodile skinks and my frog. I don't have another frog. I never got another frog. So there's no frog that I replaced because I literally do not have another frog. So I didn't replace him because there's no second frog. I said he died and now he's gone. There's no new one, no reincarnated one, he's gone. And then with the crocodile skinks, the proof is that I contacted a breeder for 2 new crocodile skinks. But the thing about that is the breeder posted it publicly that they're sending them to me. So how would I be tricking you guys and replacing an animal, sneaking it, getting behind you so you don't know they're dead?
She even commented on it.
If the person literally posted on their page I'm sending these crocodile skinks to a new home, and then tagged me in it. That would kind of ruin my story that they're the original skinks. It wasn't hidden. There's no exposing me. We talked about it publicly. I liked it, I commented on it the day it happened. It's all public knowledge. Anyone that was looking at their Instagram notifications would have seen that, or anyone that was following them would have seen that. There's no way I could have replaced them and gotten away with that. I wasn't looking to replace them and get away with it. On this topic, if you don't know, we'll move on to the heating malfunction that caused the death of my crocodile skinks.
And this is the one that was concerning me the most.
If you don't know, my crocodile skinks and my Pac-Man frog both passed away with a heating malfunction in my animal room. It was one of the worst days I've had in a long time. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. And if you don't know about it, I'll post the link in my description to my Instagram post about it. It's been a really hard situation for me, which is why I haven't talked about it too much other than on Twitter and Instagram. Anyway, to sum it up, I have heat regulators because I have a lot of heat lamps and a lot of heating pads and just a lot of heat in my animal room. And so if I didn't have something to regulate the heat, it would get extremely, extremely hot in there, and there'd be no way that each animal got the exact temperature they needed. So I have heating regulators hooked up to my animals' cages that have the temperature, the max temperature that the cage can get to before the heating thing shuts off. And my Pac-Man frog and my crocodile skink were both in the same row of cages, and my electricity malfunctioned while I was sleeping. I woke up, I went and took care of it. All I had to do was flip the breaker and it went right back on. Checked on all the animals and everyone was fine, made sure they had water, made sure their temperatures were good, made sure, you know, their humidity was good, made sure everyone was good. And then I went out and did things. And by the time I had finished with my day, it turns out that the heat regulators never turned back on for the crocodiles.
See, this is the part that has been drawing a lot of criticism, and a lot of people have been coming to me and talking about this part in particular. It was referenced multiple times on our Twitter that this is her full-time job. As an animal caretaker, somebody who doesn't do this full-time, but has a lot of animals, if I were at work or if something were to happen in my room where the power didn't work, I would be checking this more than once in that 12-hour period. And that was the rough estimate, was 12 hours since she fixed it to her finding out that something else had gone wrong. When I have a power outage in my house, I have a plan. I have an emergency scenario planned out. I have emergency heat packs and everything else to keep the animals warm. I have filters and aerators that run off of batteries. I have a stockhold of batteries. I have a lot of animals too. I mean, like, not 50, but if you count them, between the 2 Pac-Man frogs, the 4 axolotls, the hamster, the 3 tarantulas, the 12 goldfish, the cichlids, the community tank, the bearded dragon, the 3 frogs. I have a lot of animals. And if something were to happen, like the power going out, I'd be checking on them more than once in a 12-hour period to make sure that everything's still okay. When my light dies or something happens with Liz, I'm checking that more than once. When I buy a brand new light bulb, I don't just plug it in and assume it's working and walk away. I watch it turn on, and then throughout the day I check it to make sure it's okay until I know for a fact it's fine. And I think that's the part that's drawing the most criticism, and that's the part that I tend to agree with a lot, is that during that 12-hour period, she should have checked on her animals at least once to make sure they were okay.
Skinks or the frog, and they passed away because they got too hot. I was extremely, extremely sad about their deaths. It took me a while to even figure out it was the heater malfunction. I thought, you know, I was like, holy, why are they dying? I was freaking out. I didn't know what happened until I looked closely and figured it out. It was so sad and awful, and something that I carry with me every day. I didn't hide it. I didn't try to replace them. I didn't try to pretend something different happened. I went and I told people what happened. And now that's backlashing really bad. People are saying that I'm cooking all my animals and calling me stupid names and just saying I shouldn't own animals if I can't keep track of them and all this stuff. But there's...
And I think that's a little overboard. I'm not going to say she shouldn't own animals, and I'm not going to say that she neglects her animals. But what I will say is, as a full-time animal taker, and as somebody who's proclaimed they are a full-time animal caretaker, they should have taken more time and more precautions to make sure this didn't happen. There are a lot of people out there who use devices that make sure if there's a fuse blown or something that it doesn't make their equipment malfunction. If this is your full-time job, and I can guarantee you she's making a lot of money off of doing this, those types of precautions should be put in place. And those types of behaviors, like checking on your animals more than once, especially when you have 50, should be happening regularly throughout the day, misting them down. I don't have the luxury of being able to mist down my animals 3 or 4 times a day because I'm only home in the mornings and at night. I take the animals out and I care for them, I feed them, I do everything I can for them. That's why I know my limits. If she's a full-time caretaker and she doesn't really have that many limits or limitations, then she needs to be putting more effort and more focus into her animals, particularly when something happens like blowing a fuse. And if you have all those heat mats and heat lamps, oops.
You're not home or you're asleep and your fish tank shuts off and they don't get oxygen and they die. Mistakes happen with animals and it's really, really crappy, but I don't think that means that you shouldn't own them based on that alone. Mistakes, like that was a one-time thing. I've never had my enclosures overheat before, so it's not like I'm repeatedly neglecting.
And I know I keep pausing. We're only 8 minutes into this. Oh my god. But I think that's one of those things where it shouldn't have to happen for you to have precautions about them happening. I have never had anything really major happen in my animal room, but I am prepared for if something did. When I found out one of my axolotls was sick, I stockpiled probably about 500 bags of black tea just in case. You have to plan for the unexpected, no matter what. I have food stockpiled. I live in Wisconsin. If it snows me in, I'm screwed basically with my animals, but I stockpile. I make sure there's enough food, there's enough insects, there's enough everything just in case something happens. And I'm not even a full-time caretaker. If I was a full-time caretaker and all the money I make is based off of my animals, I would be ensuring that they are all cared for to the absolute maximum, including plans for if something happened, or even to prevent it from happening.
Them. It was a mistake, and I'm so careful now. And
I will say it was a mistake, and I'm not gonna I know I keep ranting, I'm not gonna do it too much, but I think it's important to remember that you are a full-time caretaker. It's literally in your job description to take care of these animals. If you were a vet tech or a vet assistant like I am, and you were to leave an animal, right? Something's happening, you fix it, and you walk away and you don't check on it again, and that animal dies, you would be out of a job or a career. You can't just let that happen. And I get you're not a trained vet tech or a vet's assistant, but it's still the point. You can't just let that happen.
I'm even more careful with them than I was before. I did see a few people say that if you're going to be away from your animals that long, you shouldn't have that many. But I honestly think what happened to me could have happened if you had one single animal, like one reptile, in your house, or you had 50. You go to work, you do your 8 hours.
But the difference is with her, or with you in particular, you make this your full-time job. It's literally your full-time job to do this. If you had one animal, like if I just had Liz, which I had for many, many years, if I just had Liz, it would be my job to make sure she's okay, but it's not my full-time job. I didn't make videos about them. I didn't profit off of them. You're profiting off of them. You're making videos about them. So it's different. It's a lot different. If you just have one animal and something happens, mistakes were made. And even though I make videos, sometimes mistakes are made. If I lose a goldfish, a mistake was probably made somewhere. But it's different because we make videos, we make content on them. People are expecting to watch them and see them because they enjoy them. And killing them or accidentally killing them is completely different than if you just have one animal and you don't make videos with them.
Hour shift, you come back, something bad happened. You can't be with your animals 24/7, you just can't.
No, you can't, but that's the average person. You make videos about their care and you profit off them. You're not the normal person.
You have 1 or 100, you can't be with your animals 24/7. And
if you have 100 animals, there's a good chance you're making money off them. You're breeding them, you're keeping them. Look at Brian from Snake Bites TV. He profits off them. He literally spends almost all of his time with them. And when he's not, he has a full-time staff to take care of them.
when you leave, something might go wrong. I'm now being extra sure that nothing goes wrong. I'm making sure that I don't put too many plugs in the one socket. I'm making sure I'm trying to be so careful with these guys. I try so hard every single day with them, and I do think it's enough. I do. I don't think that I'm in over my head with these guys because
I'm not going to say you're in over your head, but I definitely think there's a lot of improvements you can make.
bought ever. I don't know if you're including the green tree python. I did buy a green tree
I am not.
python once. It was super, super sick on display. Before I
In that text too, with the super sick one on display, she shouldn't have bought it. That's basically the only thing I have to say. You gave that breeder money, and you basically justified what he was doing. Shouldn't have given him money.
even before the day finished, I'm pretty sure it died. And then they sent me a new one free of charge because they recognized that it was their fault. So I don't know. I feel like I'm doing good with these animals.
I will say I think she's doing good with most of her animals.
Do remember
I feel like there are still parts that can be improved. I feel like if she wanted to improve them, she would be listening to a lot of people who are offering her advice on how to improve them. But seeing as she hasn't really taken that much advice and blocked people or did things of that nature, those are dogs, then it kind of shows me that she isn't doing the best. When I put a video of somebody has advice like my hamster cage, I fixed it. I went about and I tried to do the absolute best I could for those animals. If somebody's trying to correct her on something and she blocks them or removes their tweets or something, that's not trying your best and it's not taking criticism very well.
one time there was a fish channel that I watched, and her entire 250-gallon tank just died off, and she had no clue what happened. But I think she takes amazing, amazing care of her fish tanks. And so I think mistakes can happen. Weird things can happen with animals, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't qualified to take care of them.
Yes and no. Oh my god, this video is never going to finish. We're only 10 minutes in. Yes and no. If I remember who you're referring to, I've seen that video, and I would like to point out that they just didn't add in a mysterious chemical into their tank. I don't know if she's going to address that at all, but the rumors I've heard is Taylor put mysterious chemical into her tank, and that's what killed Cheese. She was trying to manage the algae. All the people that I know and the people that I've watched have said that that was idiotic. She shouldn't have done that. It's different than not knowing why and doing something completely idiotic and then wondering why. So there's a difference.
And I'm not blaming anyone.
And I want to say that I'm not trying to be mean too. I know my tone kind of shifted from, hey, let's have a I'm open to listening to what you're saying, to criticizing her as we go through. I'm not criticizing. I'm just kind of putting in the arguments that I have heard and the opinions I have heard and some of the opinions I hold. I'm kind of inserting those in with her responses so people can kind of understand what's happening and the criticisms and where they're coming from.
Anyone else for the malfunction. It was literally awful and broke my heart, and it's still hard to talk about it, so I kind of just...
Surge protectors is the word I was looking for. She should definitely get surge protectors.
Emotionally shut off when I do. Also, for the rumor that I'm making fun of my animals that overheated because I called my snake an uncooked noodle, it looked like raw spaghetti. I wasn't mocking my animals. My snake looked like spaghetti. I'm sorry. I keep seeing people throw around the number 20 of her animals have died in the last year. I don't know what you're counting. I don't know if you're counting every single individual fish. I don't know if you're counting snails, because I did see one time when I announced that one of the snails died in my tank, someone was like, another one to her death toll. I reckon
That's fair. I've killed off all my mystery snails. I can't keep them alive. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I don't think that's a fair justification for hating her. That's kind of ridiculous. If you worried about every single one of the shrimp I have in my tank and all the ones that died, we'd have a death toll in the 50s. Just because it's incredibly hard to keep some of those animals. So even mystery snails, the water parameters, the hardness, the softness, the calcium levels, it's so hard to keep them alive, and they do so bad in shipping. So in that part, I agree 100% with Taylor, and I would defend her to the death about that. That's ridiculous.
I recognize that my praying mantids have died after 6 months each. Sure, I recognize that, but that's like their lifespan. I recognize that I've lost fish. I recognize I've lost other insects. And then yeah, here and there, I mean, my hedgehogs have died. I've had other animals die, but the way they're making it sound is like, I'm just like, they're just dropping like flies, like snake after snake after snake, and then Bindi, and then Twisty, and then all this, but they're all doing great. So yes, I have had deaths, but it's nowhere near the extreme that people are making it sound. I'm not saying that that number isn't real. I'm sure that there have been 20 living beings that I've brought into my home that have passed away, but they aren't things that are easy to, you know, it was like a fish, a single fish in my fish tank, my betta fish, my, you know, whatever. And there's a lot of people that's trial and error with fish tanks.
That's
you
true.
do lose fish,
Very
and
true.
I hate it. I cry every time. I don't know what happens, and it tears me apart because I wish I could have done better. I wish it could have lived longer. But I don't. Fish in the fish keeping hobby, fish die, so I just don't appreciate that
Very
number
true.
being thrown around because it's making it sound like I'm chopping the heads off of like my cats and stuff when it's really, you know, a fish or, you know, a bug. And I'm not saying that they aren't worth life. They are, but they're so sensitive that it should not be labeled abuse when a fish or whatever just, you know, passes on.
That's
I just
true.
don't think it fish are
Very
all
true.
so sensitive. You never know what happened to the fish before you brought it home. Sometimes fish in the wild are caught with things like cyanide, I believe. I'm gonna correct myself somewhere on the screen if I'm wrong, but they are stunned with poisons to catch them and bring them back into captivity.
So something I will add in here is that fish are extremely sensitive, and a lot of fish that you see in the fish keeping hobby will actually have parasites when you bring them home, which is why we recommend quarantining them, putting them in a separate tank or something in order to medicate them, even if they're not sick with something. I normally don't advocate for medicating without knowing what's wrong, but in this instance with fish, you definitely want to medicate them. And I think that's a good point she brings up, that fish you can't really count in their death toll. I don't think that's fair necessarily. We've all lost fish. As somebody who originally started out in the fish keeping hobby, somebody whose channel was literally DH Aquatics until a couple months ago, I don't think that's fair to necessarily say that that's a reason why she's an animal abuser. Fish honestly die. I don't want to make it sound like I neglect my fish or anything, but it's so impossibly hard to make sure every fish you have in your tank is happy and healthy, especially because a lot of those fish do come in already sick or don't do well in transportation or, you know, countless other reasons.
You don't know their genetics or how healthy their parents were. You don't know where they came from, what their locality was.
Inbreeding is such an issue too. Constantly rebreeding guppies over and over again. You just never know.
Cowfish all over the world grow at different sizes at different rates. Male to females grow different rates. If they are caught from this location or this location, if they're caught with poisons, things like that. You don't know about what happened to a fish before you brought it into your home. You just don't, and that's sadly how it is in the fish hobby. Unless they're captive bred, you just don't know. And in saltwater, not a lot of fish are captive bred. You could get a nitrate spike, or your pH could drop, and then bam, you lost fish. And I think
and
that-
it can literally happen in an hour, too. Oop, that's a bad pause. Ugly. Oop, I'm not saying she's ugly. Really bad pause. But what I will say is, literally in an hour, you could have one fish that might be sick to all of your fish dead. So what she's saying is not false at all. It can happen.
I'm sorry, but I do think that's different than if you're like killing off all your snakes or killing off all your bearded dragons or things like that.
I agree,
do think
100%
fish keeping
wholeheartedly.
is in its own category. I just do, and I'm extremely sorry that it disappoints people. I really am, because it disappoints me too when fish die. It does. But I do not beat myself up over it. I know that I can't always control it, but I can do my best to give them a good life, and I could try, and I could really, really treasure these animals. But fish just are tricky. They're tricky. I believe my fish tanks are overall good, which is what you want to look for in a fish owner. I have every single fish except Cheese of the original fish and my wrasse in that big tank right there. I did buy a pair of wrasse that didn't make it very long, and then Cheese just recently passed away. But every single other fish in
What
there—
I will say in her defense is I'm even terrified to keep saltwater because it's so flippin' hard. You never know what's going to happen. So in her defense, she takes very good care of her saltwater tank. Besides the possible throwing of an unknown chemical in there, besides that, she does do a pretty good job.
there that I got right when I set the tank up, they're still in there. Anyway, that's my little rant about that. I'm sorry that I'm rambling. I'm trying to do this right. I'm trying to not talk too long or talk too short or too brief or too, I'm trying to talk about the situation without being too annoying or too brief or too dry or too emotionless or overly emotional or whatever. It's hard for me, so I'm trying. The next topic I will talk about are my cats. When I lived with my family did not let me own cats because there were allergies in the family to cats, so I wouldn't be able to have like my cousins over and my aunts over if I had cats in my parents' house. So when I moved out, one of the very first things I was so excited for was to get a pair of cats because I adore kittens. I love cats. I love them. I love dogs too, but I love cats. So I was super excited about that. I spent a whole day, you know, going to shelter.
Before she even gets into this, I know this is going. Working at a shelter, I can tell you that kittens die all the time. There's literally no explanation for it. They'll just one day not be alive. It's something that's incredibly common in prenatal kittens. Not prenatal. What's it called? When they're just born. I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a word that starts with an N. Anyway, I can't remember. It's incredibly common for them to die. When she brought home the kittens, I knew that there was a 50-50 chance one of them will die, or both of them would die. So I don't blame her necessarily for that, but I do kind of criticize her for taking them so young and showing them to her audience. She probably should have gotten somebody a little bit older with not necessarily a guarantee, but a better survival rate. That would have been a lot easier on a lot of the people who watch her videos, and probably on her as well.
And I didn't find any that day that really connected with me, so I was gonna call it a day, go home, and come back the next day and continue my search. I stopped at a Petco to get crickets, and there was a lady there with a box with 2 newborn kittens in it, and she told me, you know, Petco can't take these, and my next stop is the pound. Do you know anyone that would be interested?
And to be completely honest, if she had brought them to the pound, there's a good chance they probably would have been euthanized if they couldn't find a foster parent. I know that's how a lot of places work, so I do give Taylor props for taking them, but I also do want to say that it was probably not the smartest idea for somebody who doesn't have experience with cats.
And I thought about it, and I was like, you know, I want this. Like, I can do this. I'm gonna do it. I would like to take these kittens in.
Well, if you don't know about these types of cats, they can't eat on their own and they can't go to the bathroom. They have to be stimulated to go to the bathroom. That's why a mother cat is so important. If you don't have that, the likelihood of survival drastically drops. So I think that's an important point to make too, is the likelihood they were going to survive anyway was extremely low.
And I would like to raise them and foster them and potentially keep them if they, you know, if everything goes right for them. They were covered in ticks, they were skinny, they were scared, they were tiny. I thought I was helping, you know? I thought if I take care of these guys, that's one less animal someone else has to like foster and take care of, that I'm contributing by doing this with my own money. I felt like I was helping, you know? An animal lover, you see a dog on the side of the road, you pick it up, you try to take care of it, things like that. So I thought I was helping, you know? Now, the controversy of this is that I should have brought them to a foster parent and that I shouldn't have done it myself.
I can't argue, but what I will say is it's nice that she didn't put that burden on a foster parent or a humane society, but at the same time, not going to say she killed them, but there's a good chance they might have had a better survival rate with a foster family. It's hard to tell.
What's done is done. I wanted to take care of them myself. I was very, very bonded with them immediately, and I wanted to take care of these guys. And maybe that was wrong. Maybe. And sadly, at one point, the female kitten did stop responding well. She wasn't eating. After an hour and a half of her refusing food, I rushed her over to the vet. They did a full workup of her. They said that she honestly looked fine. Maybe she just was constipated, to bring her back home and see if I can get her to poop and then eat. So I brought her back home. I tried to get her to poop. I tried to get her to eat. 2 hours later, didn't get any better. Rushed her back over. They looked her all over. They said, I don't know why she's like this. I don't know what's wrong with her. You're doing everything right. As we can tell with the mail that you have, you're doing everything right. We don't know why she's declining, but we'll keep her here and we'll try to get her better ourselves. So I left the cat there, went home, and within a few hours they called me and said that she was dead. It was heartbreaking. I like fell to the floor crying. I think about that cat all the time. I think about that kitten all the time. And I just hope that, you know, she's like looking over her brother somewhere or something. But you could look at it two ways. You could look at it that Nemo is some miracle to survive my...
What I will say is that there's two likely scenarios with the cats. One, she takes them to the shelter and they get inevitably euthanized because nobody can take them because kittens are extremely hard to take care of. Or two, she brought them home and gave them the best life she could until one of them passed away. What I will say is she at least saved the one, and that one's still healthy and doing well. Most likely, if they had taken them to the Humane Society, they both would have been euthanized if they couldn't find a foster home. So saving one out of the two, it sounds bad, but isn't bad. She did a really good job, and I really commend her for doing that because it's very unlikely anybody else would have.
Abuse that I put the kittens through, and that I did, that
It's definitely not abuse.
I did indeed kill the other kitten like people are telling me I did. Or you can look at it that I did do things right because Nemo is amazing and he is literally my best friend. And I would die for him. I literally would. So.
And I think that she's absolutely right in that regard. She did the right thing. Did she do something that I probably wouldn't have done? Yes, I would have taken it to a foster home or founded a foster home or taken it to the shelter. But she did the best she could, and she did what she thought was right, so I do commend her 110% for that. Jeez.
You could look at it that I messed up and that I killed his sister, or you can know that I did everything I could, and I think Nemo turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know why, out of all the accusations, that's one of the ones that hurts the most, but
I can tell you why, because you actually put a lot of work into that one, and there was literally nothing you could do. If you don't work at a shelter, I think it's hard for you to understand, but we have people who are foster parents come in all the time, a complete mess because they lost their cat, or they lost a kitten they were watching for no reason, because they were doing everything right. Out of the hundreds of cats they watched, maybe like 10 or 15 die, and there's no reason for it. I feel for Taylor, because in this moment, that wasn't her fault. She's being blamed for it, so I will say that that was not her fault.
I loved both of those cats so much, and I love Nemo every day, so being told that I should have just, the kitten would be alive if he would have just brought it to a store or something, that just, or, to a foster, that great kitten would have an amazing life if you would have just brought it to the pound instead of trying to take care of it.
Those are the people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. I would vouch for her in that statement 110%. I'd lay everything on the line and vouch for her in that statement, because that statement is the most true thing that I could hear. She did everything she could, and there was nothing anybody else can say that she did wrong. She did everything she could, and that's the most we can ask for, because both the kittens would have been dead if they would have been taken to the shelter, possibly.
That hurts, because I love my cat so much. I love all my cats. I didn't want to get emotional on this, but that's my response to that. You could look at it either way. I do want to say, while I was editing, I noticed I did get extremely emotional, and maybe it came across a little too defensive in that part about the cat. Basically, I don't know why the girl died. I don't. And I'm not trying to make it sound like you can't blame me, because it could have been something I did wrong, but I genuinely think I did everything right, and I think Nemo's a good example of that. I'm not trying to get too defensive in this, and I apologize that I got really worked up about that, but that's just an extremely hard situation for me, because I would die for Nemo, and I would have for the gray kitten. I would have done anything for her. So I don't know why they died. I don't have that answer for you. My hands are shaking. But I really think I did my best. My other thing to respond to about the cats is the one that I brought in as a companion for Nemo after his sister passed away. I brought in Ghost. I got him at an adoption event, but people insist that he's this cat from Craigslist. I don't even know what I could say about that anymore. People keep saying that I refuse to respond to that, but I've been responding to that for a year now, so that's why I don't respond to it anymore, is I've addressed that. I addressed that so many times a year ago, because that's when it was scandalous. The person that they're accusing me of getting the cat on Craigslist from is literally told people no. People would contact her being like, did you sell to Taylor Nicole Dean? I love that kitten. And she'd be like, no. And she contacted me and she was like, excuse me, why are you telling people that you got my cat? I posted that conversation a year ago. People said I faked it. Again, you're gonna believe what you wanna believe, but The Craigslist person themselves said I didn't get it from them, so I don't know what else to tell you guys. There's a few more that I'm gonna answer, and then I'm gonna stop. So I don't wanna spend all night out here, and there's just so many different stories, like it could mean this, or it could be this, or it could be that, so just gonna talk about a few more. Next one is the bearded dragon situation. My bearded dragon was sold to me with a damaged tail. I talked about it after I got the amputation.
I don't care about the bearded dragon.
What kind of monitor I had for a while. It was
okay, so this is where we're gonna end it here. I know we're only halfway through. I personally think that she's doing a really good job at addressing situations. There are certain things that I think she addressed well, certain things she didn't. The reason I'm cutting it off here is because I'm assuming that it's going to just be the exact same thing that I could expect from her to post. I'm not going to say all of them are bad and all of them are good. I do have a lot of comments. Not all of them might be accurate on them. I think that at this point now it's up to public opinion. She commented back. I'm making this video, obviously. And what I'll say is I think Taylor is a great person. I do. I think she's a lovely person. I think she's doing what she thinks is right. But just because she's doing it because she thinks it's right doesn't necessarily mean it is right. One of the things I can vouch for is I've never made a video of an animal I literally just got and tell everybody how to take care of them. I only do care videos on animals I've had for a while. So like I think the only care video I actually have is for my African clawed frogs, the actual real care video, and I've had African clawed frogs for 5 years. So I think that's the only one I've actually ever made that's an actual care video. I think the best thing she can do now is to continue on doing what she's doing. Maybe taking some advice from people who know what they're doing, and getting in contact with those people and trying her best to change. But at this point, again, there's not too much we can do besides continue to tell her that she is a good person, but there are some things she needs to change. But that's my take on this whole thing, and I could be completely wrong, and maybe there's something revealing in the ending of this video, but so far it's been the exact same thing. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.